You can't see us because most schools have one Black engineering professor, maybe two, unless you're in a historically Black college. And so, we have these social media posts, like we're out there. We may seem isolated, one on a campus here and there, but we are here and what we do is important. And we made a video about the killing of George Floyd and talked about that just because we're in this ivory tower, Black in the Ivory was another thing that was birthed out of Black in the X movement.
Welcome to Lunch with Leaders, the podcast where we explore what it takes to lead, thrive, and create lasting impact. I'm Adeze, a TEDx speaker, leadership strategist, and the founder of African Women in STEM. Each episode features insightful conversations with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders from around the world who are transforming cultures, redefining leadership, and shaping the future of work. Together, we'll share the stories, strategies, and mindsets that will empower women in STEM to amplify their visibility, influence, and impact. So if you're ready to lead boldly, amplify your voice, and help influence what leadership looks like for women in STEM, hit follow, share this podcast, and join us every week for impactful conversations, powerful stories, and practical strategies. So, our guest today is Carlotta Berry. Oh my goodness. So, I'm so excited because we tried this once before and the gods of the internet decided it wasn't time. But I believe today is the day we're supposed to have this conversation. So, I'll go ahead and read her bio so that you know how incredibly awesome she is. So, Carlotta Berry is a professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at, I might say this wrong, Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and the Dr. Lawrence J. Giaccioletto, endowed chair for the electrical and computer engineering. So Dr. Berry is a first and tenure full professor and endowed chairship at Rose-Hulman. So she has a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Spelman College and in electrical engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology, a master's in electrical engineering from Wayne University, and a PhD from Vanderbilt University. So her research interests are in robotics, education, and interface design, human-robot interaction, and increasingly historically marginalized and minoritized populations in STEM fields. And she does an amazing job at that. If you follow her on LinkedIn, you'll see. I know, I love your LinkedIn posts and videos. So she's also the author of the textbook Mobile Robotics for Multidisciplinary Study and the editor for Mitigating Bias in Machine Learning. So Carlotta has a passion for diversifying engineering profession by encouraging more women, more marginalized and minoritized populations to pursue STEM degrees, because that's actually really very important. And she's also a visiting scientist at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, where she helps to carry out this mission. And she also has co-founded two nonprofits, Black in Engineering and Black in Robotics. She's also the founder of Noire Stemminist, which is kind of where I saw you first, because again, Stemminist, feminist, whatever, women. And she does a lot of speaking engagement, workshop, and consulting through that. And she also sells robots, children's books, romance novels. I mean, you have an interesting, we'll talk about all this stuff. And all her work promotes diversity in STEM as part of her mission to make STEM and robotics for the street. So welcome. We're so excited to have you here, and I'm excited to have this conversation. So let me start with the STEM for the streets, because, somehow people in STEM, women in STEM, believe that, because we're very technical and we have all this expertise, there has to be some extreme level of seriousness that comes with that. But there's a lot of, when I watch your posts and videos on LinkedIn, there's a kind of play that comes with it, which I absolutely love, because that's one way to make it accessible to everyone. So I want to talk about the work that you do, because you do a lot of interesting things, right? And you focus on, again, the same demographics, but you talk about robotics and machine learning. And I'm going to tell you right now that AI is a thing. And for better or worse, AI is here to stay. We use it, but there's also concerns about, AI bias and representation and all of that. So with the work that you're doing, how are you working, or what do you think we can do to ensure that when we're using AI and we're working with robotics, that reflects, fairness and equity?
I think you move slowly and you move a little bit at a time and you do what's most comfortable for you. Right now, I'm meeting with someone today who's going to help me use AI to build an app that I have been working on, but I don't know how to do that kind of work. I do robotics. So I am going to work with a professional. And so I think most important for anything you're going to do is find the people who have the knowledge and you tap into them and you use your resources and you move slowly at first, but you also educate yourself about these platforms, what they are and what they don't do. I don't really use Alexa or Siri. I just don't feel comfortable with the thing that I feel like is spying on me. But we know that your cell phone also spies on you. So you cannot get away from all of that. So you move very intentionally in a way for what you feel most comfortable doing, right? So if you want to build an AI engine, I think it's important. If you think about those avatars, those AI avatars I do that because you just don't see Black women engineering professors. You don't see Black women roboticists. And we need to be out there and visible and in those spaces so that we can teach people about the bias and all of that. Because if we're not there, the tech bros are definitely not going to do it. They're all about making money. So that's why we have to be in those spaces, because if we don't get on the technology highway, the highway will run us over. So you just can't say, I'm going to step off and pray that it all works out. No, I'm going to get down in the trenches and make sure that my people are represented, our voices are represented, and that we are not going to be harmed in this process.
Mhm. And there's something that you said that just got me thinking, because there's this lady, her name is Chika. I don't want to say her last name wrong, but she used to be in Silicon Valley, but now she moved back to Nigeria. One of the things that she always said is that because she used to be kind of involved with startups and when people are pitching, she's like, generally, no, she used to work in tech,
Oh,
like
okay.
in Silicon Valley and all that. So that typically that when the Silicon Valley natives, if we want to put it that way, that when they're pitching things,
Yeah.
they're just pitching things that are like, just kind of pulling stuff out and just trying to figure out. To your point, it's not about making money. Like how can we come up with all this in their mind, maybe interesting things or out of the way things, but that funny enough they do
Yeah,
get,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
about making money. But most people that are, for example, Africans or from other parts of the world, when they do come to pitch, they're actually pitching things, solutions to actual problems that do exist. But unfortunately, they don't get the funding to do those things.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think it also kind of brings to bear that it's really necessary for us to, because again, if we don't do this, who else will, in a sense? Because again, the
Yes.
money is not going to flow the way we want it. That doesn't, we can't be out there pushing it all the time to make sure that we're taken care of, to your point. And that kind of brings me to leadership. Your career is that's, I mean, I'm just amazed and impressed. It spans a lot. So, I mean, you have engineering, you have education, you have entrepreneurship, you write novels. There's also advocacy. You also focus on poetry and everyday life. And that to me
Yeah.
is kind of embracing all parts of yourself. And I talk about this in my TEDx talk where like you kind of have to lean into what makes you unique and just kind of embrace it entirely so that you can bring out the best. So for you, how did you get here? Okay, because I know it's not a one day thing to be able to kind of realize what all your gifts are and not just embrace them, but actually, tap into them and use them to do the work that you do. So first of all, how did you get there? And secondly, how, in your opinion, do you think that people should be able to kind of tap into all of these things that make them unique so that they can be able to create impact or
Hmm.
lead better or influence, people the way that they think is best?
I think a big part of it is Black women have to be multidisciplinary and intersectional in ways that other people do not. Because we deal with so many isms as a working engineer before I got my PhD. When I went to work, I didn't always know if it was sexism, ageism, racism. So we have to embrace all the parts of who we are in order to be the most successful. And so changing the face of STEM one robot at a time, the other thing I had to realize very quickly is who I was could not look like who anybody else was. I could not walk into a room as an electrical engineer or walk into a classroom as an engineering professor and do it the way that my colleagues did. I can't act the way that they act and get the same results. If I'm too strict or I'm too firm as a woman who they see more as a mothering type, I will get critiqued way more harshly on my course evaluations than the old, weathered, gray haired engineering professor. So waking up and realizing I got to do this thing different. Like I said, we talked about trailblazers earlier. I got to do this in a way that feels most authentic to me. Because if I'm not being authentic, people will sense that. So during the pandemic was a big part of where I started doing a lot of things that you delineated, is because we were all sitting at home. I now had tenure. I now was an endowed professor. It's now time for me to be able to do what's on my bucket list. I don't have to just stick in the lines of what I need to do to get tenure, what I need to do to get promoted to full professor. I can do things I want to do. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to see more Black and brown kids and more girls pursuing careers in STEM. And I felt I could use my robotics in order to do that. But I wanted to do it in a creative way. So I couldn't just put it in a journal paper. I couldn't just go talk about it at a conference. I needed to do things like with Black in Engineering, Black in Robotics, virtual robotics workshops, in-person workshops at Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, going where the kids were. I had a parent tell me, you got to get on TikTok. The kids are on TikTok. All right, TikTok, here we come. One thing you have to think about is professors and academics are very uncomfortable with social media. That's not typically what we do because that's not our venue, right? The things that get me promoted are not going to be these avatars on LinkedIn. It's not going to be my singing on TikTok. What gets me promoted, what gets me grants is writing papers, graduating PhDs, going to conferences and things like that. So I had to get to the point where, okay, I have done what I need to do in my career, and I now want to do something for my community. And what does that look like? That looks like me saying, I'm bringing all of Carlotta to the table, right? So I am going to make videos. I am going to make avatars, but I'm not going to be the sage on the stage, and I'm not going to lecture like I would in a classroom. I'm going to do it in a way so that somebody can go, that's me. She looks like me. She acts like me. Maybe I too can be an engineer. So I am being for them what nobody was for me. I'm being what I did not see. I told someone I graduated from undergraduate in 1992. That was the year that Mae Jemison went to space. She's the first Black woman PhD engineer I had ever heard of. So that means I did all of my undergraduate wanting to be an engineer and not knowing any Black women engineering PhDs. So I'm here so that the next Mae Jemison can look back and go, I didn't have to do that journey blind as a trailblazer, but I actually had guidance and I had help and I had mentorship.
I mean, there's so much to what you said. And
Yeah.
I just kind of think back earlier in my career. I mean, things have changed a little bit now because I guess because of the way the world is, people are kind, or maybe it's just Gen Z, I don't know, but people are kind of forced to tap into other parts of themselves. Early on in my career, there was this whole thing of if you're an engineer, you can't be artistic or creative. But I'm so
Yeah.
glad now people are more expressive. People can express themselves more. And people like you and other influencers as well are actually just kind of showing that as, yes, this is how it is. You don't have to be all
You
buttoned
can't,
up.
like my engineering professors in undergrad, my mission is to be the opposite. I want to be kind. I want to be approachable. I want to be accessible. I want to have a personal connection with my students. I want to know my students' names. I want to have office hours where they can come talk to me and say, hey, I'm struggling. Because what happens is when you don't do that and they have these weed out courses, you're weeding out somebody who could probably be an amazing engineer, right? So the other thing I tell my students is stop whining about your English classes, your humanities classes, your history, your geography. Those are the classes that are going to make you a better engineer. Engineers design processes and products to improve the world. Well, there are diverse people in the world. There's women in the world. There's LGBTQIA people in the world. And when you're thinking about designing these widgets just to make money, and that is your focus, you're missing your whole goal as an engineer. Because if you're not designing things that are inclusive and accessible to a broad swath of the world, you're doing it wrong. I talk about when I do robotics competitions with my students, we typically have them design something, and at the end of the year or the quarter, they have to do it. And normally male students, can we do battle bots? Can we add a Nerf gun to the robot? No, we cannot. You're missing the point. First of all, money does not grow on trees. We're not going to be up in here tearing up robots every 5 minutes. And how about we try to design a robot to improve something about the world as opposed to making fighting machines, right? So that's changing your vision from I'm just an engineer just to make stuff as opposed to I'm an engineer because I want to improve the world. I want to make it a better place. I want, like you mentioned, Africa. I want to go to Engineers Without Borders and go somewhere maybe where they don't have an electrical grid and think about how solar power could help them. A lot of times research will say that female students will leave engineering or leave certain branches of engineering like electrical and go to biomedical or civil because they could not see how that field allowed them to help people. Well, we know all engineering allows people to help people, but if they cannot see that, then they're like, I don't want to do this.
interesting because for me, my entire career in engineering was all about making people's lives better. People look at me like, what are you talking about? Because you're supposed to be building things. But if you think about it, okay, so I did pipeline for years,
Yes.
design oil and gas pipelines. At a basic minimum, if I did not do my job, you'll be cold in the winter, okay? If I did not do my job properly, it will not be safe and there'll be explosions everywhere. If I did not do my job properly, people will not come to work and go home same way they came
Yes,
to. So it's like I always come from a mindset of people first, and I think that can be applied across all engineering. Even if you're in a manufacturing plant with machines everywhere, it's still the same thing. But that is not pushed in general. So it's something
yes,
that I'm glad they're talking
yes.
about, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. But really, even when I was a kid, I was like, engineers make the scientist's dreams come true. And it's almost like, what can you dream of? We'll create it for you. It's almost like improving people's lives and so on and so forth. So that is great. So when you launched, or when you helped launch Black in Engineering or Black in Robotics, first of all, tell us why. And then secondly, can you also tell us how far you've come in the work that you're doing and how that is actually
Yeah,
helping change
yeah.
engineering and robotics for Black and Brown people?
Absolutely. I know saying pandemic is triggering for a lot of people because it was really a rough time. But to be honest, that's where all of this birth. It was the birth of the Black and X movement. So around 2020, 2021, everyone was home. It was the pandemic. So a lot of people connected on social media. I've made colleagues that I've connected to from Twitter and Instagram and Facebook from that time who to this day I still work with. Some of them I have met in person, some of them I have not. But around that time, the Black and X movement was birthed on social media because it was right around the time of the killing of George Floyd. And what started it was there was a black bird watcher in New York. His name was Cooper. I can't remember what his first name was, but a woman named Amy Cooper, they actually had the same last name, had called the police on him because he had asked her to leash her dog because it was disturbing the birds and he was bird watching. And she called and implied he had a weapon or something like that. And so it went viral on social media. Black bird watchers was birthed out of that. There was a community of black bird watchers. And from that, everyone was like, oh, well, we want to start communities too. So since we're all on social media anyway, they started popping up everywhere. Black in cancer, black in astro, black in engineering, black in robotics. But there's about 50 of them. And it's now a movement and it has a website and you can go and see all of them. So black in engineering was actually first. Then it was so broad people wanted to have affinity groups because a lot of Black in engineering members are PhDs. A lot of them are in academia. Some of them are in government labs. And people wanted to have a smaller connection. So Black in BME was born, Black in biomedical engineering. Black in computing is also a thing. And then from that, Black in robotics. Black in robotics is actually not that large of a community, although it is growing. But a big part of what we do is affinity groups. It's a way for you to have mentors. It's a way to gather resources. It's a way for people to advocate for you. For example, through Black in Robotics, we hold virtual workshops online to teach people about AI and robotics and other technical skills. We actually have a very large community in Africa on Black in robotics. So you got to think these are people we would have never met in person, right? But they're now able to come to these workshops with us. They teach some of them, they attend some of them. Some of them I have met in person. I have now written recommendations for some of them to go to college because some of them joined when they were still in high school or to go to grad school. Black in Robotics now has funding and it funds grad students to go to conferences and present their work. It also provides fellowships for students to go to grad school under tuition scholarships and then go and do internships for our company sponsors. Similarly, Black in Engineering goes to the American Society of Engineering Education Conference, which is actually starting tomorrow, and also to the National Society of Black Engineers. And through that, we give presentations about our work as well. And so it's now looking at us in ways that we could not before. We also had a social media campaign that talks about you can't see us because most schools have one Black engineering professor, maybe two, unless you're in a historically Black college. And so, we have these social media posts like we're out there. We may seem isolated, one on a campus here and there, but we are here and what we do is important. And we made a video about the killing of George Floyd and talked about that just because we're in this ivory tower, Black in the Ivory was another thing that was birthed out of Black in the X movement. Just because we're in the ivory tower does not mean that social issues don't still affect us. These things are still important to us because when we walk outside that classroom, we walk outside of those ivory gates, we're still just a Black person, right? And they don't see you as doctor. They don't see you as professor. So it's about advocacy, but it's also about community and community building. But that's where that came from. And so that's how I got involved in Black in engineering and Black in robotics. My company came after that because we were so accessible on social media. I started getting asked to do a lot of things for free. I do a lot for free because I have a passion for Black and brown people and girls and kids, but I can't do everything for free. And so I had to start monetizing these requests, which is why I started my business so that I had a mechanism for people to pay me for my intellectual labor. Because as Black women professionals, we are also the most likely to not get paid because people see us as the caregivers, as the mammies. You're here to help me and take care of me. Well, I have a family too, and I have bills as well. So that's honestly, I never thought I would have a business, but that's why I started it. And it's because of requests I was getting for free labor were becoming overwhelming.
Yeah. And I just like what you said because in my community of African women in STEM, I always tell people that the best way to get clarity is to take action, right? So you started doing the thing that you felt called to do, and then your business came out of that. But in general, as women in STEM,
Absolutely.
Black women in STEM, because of who we have to be to succeed, we're very intellectual, like we say in our heads a lot. And there's also that need for perfection
Yes.
because you have to be exceptional, to make it, to survive, to
That
just kind
part.
of prove
Yes,
that you deserve to
absolutely.
be there. So a
Yeah.
lot of times people come with that, I have to kind of get it to a place where it's perfect and exceptional, or I have to see the big picture. And not the big picture, I have to see the whole thing, the whole picture, because
Yes.
that was me at some point too.
Yes. Yes.
But that's why I just kind of love having these conversations because, again, you have built so
Yeah.
much, but it just came from you thought about something, you took action. And then, when you now
Yeah.
realize you needed to pivot and make a change, you did the same thing, and it just kind of flows from there. So, this is really great. And I encourage everybody to go check out Black in Engineering and Black in Robotics as well to just learn what you're doing. And when you say they now have funding, they're
Yeah.
sending people to conferences. That's another thing that really gives me so much joy because I know when I was starting my career, I struggled with going to these things. One of the things I did was I was part of American Institute of Mechanical Engineers. So they had all these grants and funding for going to events, but you had to write essay. I was like, I'll write all the essays in the world. I'll have all the interviews in the world. And that's how I got, because my company wasn't ready to pay for any of those things. And then, but most people are like, "Wait, it's not paying, I'm not going." But I'm like, there's so many other ways. So I'm glad that this is happening. That's another avenue and opportunity. So if you're listening to this now and you're like, I don't have a way to pay for continuing education, there are ways, okay? This is one way. It's not easy to go and search.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just be creative. There are many organizations like this that are willing to help Black women, especially to, move their careers forward. So this is so great. And when you
Absolutely.
talked about, oh my God, when you talked about the fact that you're doing all this work for free because it's your passion, oh my God, women, that is a problem, okay? I always have to ask this question for people that are doing mission-driven work because you want to,
Mm.
so my thing is, how do you balance? I mean, you've talked a little bit about that, but maybe you can go into it a little bit more. Just kind of balancing that mission
Yeah.
driven, having to create impact and advocacy is a whole thing, okay? But also thinking about the fact that this is also a business and you don't want to lose the part of the mission because one thing that always happens is that if you're so mission driven and focused on the impact and you're not getting any kind of support or money, you will burn out and you might probably just walk away. The people that you're supposed to serve will have a gap there. So how do you kind of balance all of this, making sure that you're still serving your mission and advocacy, but also making sure that you're compensated enough so that you will continue this mission, for as long as you can.
I heard someone say this one time about Oprah Winfrey, and I try to live by it. I don't do it all the time, but she would decide at the beginning of every year how much money she was going to give away, what organization she was going to give it to. And after that was depleted, that was it for the year. And she did that every year. So I'm not quite as strategic as that, but I make choices like that. If I decide I'm going to do 3 pro bono events this year and I want to do them for nonprofits and I want to do them for companies that have a mission to get more girls in coding or Black kids in robotics or whatever, then that I will do that. And then once I get to that line, I just cannot do anymore because one of the things I talk about is I'm not a nonprofit. My company is a for-profit, but I will have a lot of nonprofits reach out to me and say, can you do this for free? We're a nonprofit. And some of the things that concern me a bit is that sometimes they are inviting me to speak at an event where they are charging the people to attend. I know that that money is going towards their annual budget, but if you're charging someone to hear me open my mouth, then you should take part of that money to pay me for opening my mouth. Because when I have to prepare and make slides and get on a plane and travel, that costs something. I've honestly had people invite me to speak and tell me your only compensation is you get to go to the conference for free, but you have to pay for your own plane ticket or you have to pay for your own hotel. And I'm like, that's not a benefit to me. I've had people invite me to do something and say, this is for exposure. It will help you get exposure. And my thing is, well, you found me. So obviously I was exposed. So I have to make those kind of choices. So if there's a mission for an organization that I align with, and I honestly, sincerely believe they don't have it to give, I will probably do it. Then as a professor, I was talking to my colleague about this yesterday. As a professor, there's some stuff I will do and I put it under my professor hat. Like if my professional organization asks me to speak, I will do that because that now goes on my CV. That's now part of my professional development for my job. So having a business and being an academic, you have to make choices about, is this for the business lane? Is this for the academic lane? Or who's asking? And I do get burned. I actually got burned recently where I gave an organization a discount and then the scope crept. So when I got there, what I had to do was a lot more than what they asked for. And I had given them a discount. And after a while, it became a little unfair to me.
Yeah.
So it's a learning journey as well.
I agree. I mean, I did this public speaking program, and one of the things that we were told is, especially with speaking, to your point about what opera does, you kind of have to make up your mind. It's not like you can't speak for free, but it makes sense when you decide when you want to speak for free, right? So it was like, I can do it. Let's say you're doing it for a friend because you know your friend will do it for you again. Okay. Let's say you're doing it because you want to reach an
Yes,
audience
absolutely.
that you normally wouldn't reach. But again, it's part of your marketing plan, right? But I think it becomes a bit challenging when it's not any of the reasons that you have outlined for yourself. And again, I like that you mentioned what opera does because it helps you to be more strategic going in. They're like, okay, I'll do this one, two,
Yes.
three, and then because when you plan ahead, it's so much easier to follow the plan. And then, but when you now come to when everything just boils down to again, we always have these conversations around if an organization is paying for speakers, they'll pay the white men first. They'll probably maybe compensate the white men. Most people want to compensate the workers one.
Yeah.
So that I like that because it also reminded me of a friend of mine that was doing something and I was talking and she was like, oh, I don't contribute. These are the charities I contribute to, but I can introduce you to someone that does something similar. And I respected that. I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. That's amazing. So it kind of goes back to making up your mind at the beginning of the year. These are the charities I contribute to, or maybe this is the budget I have for contribution, or this is my marketing plan for this year, or whatever the case may be, and then you kind of fit into that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope it's going to help us be more
You're so
strategic.
welcome. I was going to say, that's why it's so important that we have a mission and we keep everything we're doing aligned with that mission and you kind of stay in your lane because then when people ask you for things, you can very quickly evaluate, is this part of my mission or is it not? And if it's not, then no, I'm not going to be able to do that for you for free, right? But you got to kind of know who you are, know what you value. In fact, Black in Robotics does this. When people apply to be sponsors for us, that's the money we use for the scholarships and things. They all have to submit a diversity plan for their organization. And based upon that plan, that's how we decide whether they can be a sponsor. Because we would not want somebody to become a sponsor for our organization and then later on, unfortunately, find out that they have a value system that does not align with who we are. So it's very similar, the same thing.
That is so key. And there's something like
Yeah.
especially in the founder world, because we know only 2% of VC funds go to women in general. I think for Black women, it's like 0.2 or something weird like that, or 0.03. But in general, women don't get funded. Of course, Black women get less funding. But one thing I've heard, which is really critical and important in the last year or so, is not all money is good money. You want to raise
Mm-hmm.
money, but you don't want to raise
Yeah.
money from just about anyone. That's number one. And then number two, they're like sometimes when you get into these relationships, think of it as a marriage or a
Yeah.
long-term relation or whatever the case may be. Like, do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
really want to be around this person, have conversations with them, do stuff with them, be associated with them? I mean, I know that sometimes you might need the money, but then again, if you think of it more long term, Because what comes out of that is in the last year, I've seen founders that have been booted out of their companies because, again, you're trying to raise money, and you get bullied for years by these people who don't feel that because you're a woman, you shouldn't be here. And then finally they kick you out, or you just leave because it's best for your mental health. I'm so happy that I brought that up. And I think one thing that we can all take away from this is plan, figure out what your vision is, what your mission is, your why, do all this ahead of time, and let that guide the decisions that you make going forward, and then find your people.
Absolutely.
And then
Yeah,
find your people.
absolutely.
I love to talk about legacy, so I'm going to bring this up, okay? So, you're doing a lot of work that is valuable for people right now, and that is going to definitely change the next generation of engineers, women in STEM, boys in STEM, girls in STEM, of color, and especially Black people. So, when you think about the next generation of girls who enter STEM and robotics, Black people who normally don't see themselves in this, what do you hope is going to be different for them because of the work that you are doing right now and what you're building?
I hope their journey is easier. Mine was not always easy. It always looks easy when you look back, hindsight 2020. So I hope that I have made the job easier for them, but also that I have helped them to make a decision that they're in the right place. I have a lot of students who enroll in engineering school because their parents made them. I've had students tell me that their parents said they would only pay for a medical doctor engineering degree. So even though I want to be an art or music major, I'm in this major because it's all my parents would pay for. That's really sad to go through 4 years getting a degree in something that you're not really passionate about or interested in. I've also had students pick engineering because they heard engineers make a lot of money. I tell students these are horrible reasons to pick a major. Pick a major because you think it's fun. You think it's interesting. You love to see what your hands can create. You like math. You like science. You like building and creating and being curious because those are the things that would keep you up at night. I tell people all the time, I love what I do. I love my job so much I would do it for free, except I have bills, right? That's how you pick a major because it's something so fun that you want to do it in your free time. And when you don't do that, it makes it hard. And so I hope what I am doing is allowing young people to authentically see themselves, see what they find exciting, see what they have fun. I love when young people reach out to me on social media and go, I want to be an engineer like you. Can you look at the robot I built? He makes some amazing stuff, and he's like a junior in high school. I wish I had been where he is as a junior in high school. I was late to the game. And he's spectacular. I had one from the camp I did last week email me and go, I'm going to make another robot. Will you help me? Yes. Those are the conversations I like to have. I also like to have them with the young ladies who are like, I don't think I can be an engineer. I really want to do fashion or I want to do sewing. Okay, let's talk about wearable electronics. Let's talk about how you integrate LEDs into fabrics. Just because you want to do art or you want to draw or you want to make clothes, it does not take you out of the STEM game because STEM does not look like any one thing. You make it look the way you want it to look. Like you said earlier, I tell people I'm not that kind of professor. Yeah, I am a professor, but I'm not the kind you think I am. I think it's important that we do that so that they can see themselves in these spaces, even if the space doesn't currently look like them.
And again, there's a fine line between arts and technology right now. Like technology is art, art is technology. And I
Yes.
tell my daughter that all the time because she is a dancer and she likes all those, creative things. And she's kind of
Yeah.
me in a way in that sense. But for me, I remember growing up, I made a choice that I wanted my creativity to be something personal to me. I felt like if I made a career out of it, I would not like it so
Mhm.
much. But what I tell her, I'm like, listen, what I believe now is that this is a time for you to explore everything. So do some coding, do some animation, play around with stuff. Nobody's saying that that's what you're going to end up doing. But the reality is, even if you focus on the arts, in this day and age, it would just be that much more impactful and useful if you incorporate technology in it as well, because that's where we're going. So I'm glad that you brought that
Right.
up.
And don't let it put you in a box. Don't let
I know.
anybody put you in a box, right? My daughter is on her way to college and she's decided she wants to major in communications. But because she's my daughter, I've taught her how to code. I've taught her how to do math. She helps me build robots. She fixed her video game when it broke. So I told her, just because you want to be a communications major, you don't have to be a communications major like anyone else. You can do technical communications. She's really good with kids. You can figure out how to do technical communications for kids. So just because you decide you want to use the right or left side of your brain does not mean you cannot look at those intersections and how all of that together can define who you are as a professional.
And this day and age, you need to stand out and be unique. And that kind of
Correct.
helps you do that.
Correct.
Like I talk to my kids about language learning because I'm Nigerian and speak Igbo, and they speak only when they need something. I'm like, okay. I was like, I mean, the language learning, you're not doing it for me. You're doing it one for you, but also doing it to develop your brain in a way
Mm-hmm.
that most
Mm-hmm.
people don't have. Because
Yeah.
when you speak multiple languages, it does something to your brain as well. And to your point, when
Yeah.
you use the left and right side of your brain, you'll be able to come up with better solutions. You're going to be more unique. And the whole thing in this world right now is how do you stand out in the way that you provide solutions? So I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm so excited. I'm glad that we're able to have this
Absolutely.
conversation. I can't believe
Absolutely.
we're at the end.
Yeah.
What are you doing right now that you're working on that is like top of mind?
So top of my mind always is my creative intersections, my STEAM. So I'm currently writing 3 children's books. I'm working on a mobile robotics textbook for McGraw-Hill. And then there doesn't leave for a lot of free time, but then on the back burners, I have a romance novel that I need to finish. I had 2 novels that came out during the pandemic, and book 3 has been in draft form for years. So trying to get time away from my professoring to do some of my side projects. Summertime is the only time I have for this. When the school year hits, it's all about the school year. So this 3 months of the summer, I have to be very, very intentional. Later on today, I will be talking to the illustrator for my latest children's book. This weekend, I will be talking to the publisher about my mobile robotics textbook. And then in the free time, I got to work on this romance novel. And then in the midst of that, I'm still doing a lot of the robotics work I do in the summertime as well with my open source robotics. But most social media, people can find me at DRCABERRY, or on LinkedIn, they can find me at Carlotta Berry, PhD. And also on some social media is under my company name, which is Noire Stemminist, NOIRE STEMINIST. And that's also the name of my website.
Oh, we're going to share all this in the show notes so
Thank
that
you
you
so
can.
much. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, this has been so amazing. I wish we could talk
Thank
for
you.
it. And everyone
Absolutely.
listening, oh no. I mean, I've looked forward to this for a while. And, the gods of
Yeah.
the internet tried to do things, but we said
They tried
no.
to take us out, but we didn't let them. I
We
know
don't
after that third crash, it just struck me. I don't think it's our internet. I think it's the Riverside app.
think
Yeah, there's
Riverside.
something wrong with that Riverside. And I've used it before. I've done podcasts with people on there before, but I think it's glitching or something.
There's something that happened today, I'm sure. So everyone make sure you follow Carlotta and I, and please and share what you learned today,
Please.
what was
Yeah,
most helpful. And if there's anything you want to take action on, please let us know. But anyone to take
absolutely.
action on, and always reach out. Again, there's something that I always like to say. People like to say nobody's out there to help you, but I'm like, but a lot of people that want to support whatever you're doing. You just need to tell them what it is. So if you're interested in robotics, if you're building something, if you just want to showcase it, if you have questions when you're taking action, it's very easy for other people to see how they can come in. So whatever you're doing,
Yeah,
don't wait till forever. Remember we talked about this earlier. When you take action, clarity comes with it. So whatever you're building is so easy now. People don't care about the messiness of how you start.
mhm,
Put it out there on social media, share it with other people, let us know what you're doing, and then we can figure out a way to support you in that.
absolutely.
I agree. And then one of the ways you can support this podcast is leave us a review and let us know how you enjoyed this particular episode, especially, and all the others. And I'll be shouting it out in future episodes.
Thank you.
Carlotta, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And please join us again in the next episode. Bye.
Bye bye.